Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the VENDO podcast. As always, my name is Gefen Laredo. I'm the director of media buying here at VENDO, joined by one of our team superstars. Jason, want to make an intro?
Hey, and I'm Jason. I lead our marketplace efforts here at Vendo, so across retail media and Amazon alongside Gefen. And we got a couple good topics to talk to you guys about.
Absolutely. So today, what we're going to cover, we're going to cover a couple of recent updates that have been launched over the past few weeks on the Amazon advertising platform that are going to slightly change the way that ads deliver. The first one is the updates to broad targeting. So broad targeting, for those that don't know, with broad, phrase, and exact, has included the largest variety of search terms that are attributed to a target. So for instance, if you say a broad target, let's say men's shampoo as exact will be men's shampoo, and that's it. Men's shampoo as phrase will have a phrase like men's shampoo organic. And then with broad, it can be any arrangement of the term men's and shampoo. In any different way. Now, a major update that has happened is Amazon has now is now including synonyms and variations. What that basically means is that they've broadened broad. And so synonyms and variations can include words that are similar. They can include words that mean the same things. And then the jury's still out on what exactly a variation could mean. It most likely just means another word that Amazon has indexed. That is similar or indexed with that term. So, Jason, what have you seen any changes in your search term reports recently, or how are you even assessing how
We have
exactly
so
this is
so
happening?
typically within our search terms, which is a process that we go through weekly, is making sure there's no outlier data. And what we saw is once Amazon changed the ability to advertise on synonyms and variations, was a lot of our broad targeting, which we only really use, across a majority of our branded defense campaigns, so campaigns to protect sales from eroding to competitors. Those terms then started delivering to variations and synonyms in a way that was not going to be advantageous long term. So what we did for the time being is we're really migrating further away from broad keywords that have historically performed exceptionally well, either month over month, really up until January 8th. And we're transitioning all of that spend then over into phrase and exact match for the time being. Because, once we lost the ability to control exactly kind of where those keywords we're going to deliver to, it then affects our campaigns from if we have bid adjustments in place for top of search or product pages that have performed, one way. If Amazon is now delivering those search terms on a completely different criteria, it's going to affect our performance in a way that's not sustainable or controlled.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the most difficult things with broad and even with phrase targeting is control, right? And so obviously the advantage of exact is that you know exactly what you're targeting. The advantage of broad and phrase is that you are leaving a lot of the thinking up to Amazon to say, hey, here's terms that you maybe didn't think of that actually convert. Or here's terms that you definitely with broad, here's terms that you definitely didn't think of that might actually convert. But one of the major things that we look at Vendo is we look at a metric called wasted spend, and it's a bit of a loose term, but what we mean by wasted spend is spend that doesn't generate revenue, right? And what we find is that over time, a lot of brands that come to us, actually most of their wasted spend is from phrase, but the least controlled terms are from broad. And that was up, before these changes were made. So I'll bring up a chart real quick if you guys want to check this out. This is basically a wasted spend tracker across our portfolio. And what you'll find is that the orange is phrase. So as a percentage, about 50% of wasted spend across our whole portfolio comes from phrase. And then about 30% comes from broad. And this has been over time a very, as you can see, outside of a couple of onboarded brands this last month, each individual week has gone down for the past about 6-7 weeks as we've moved away from broad. As Amazon brought in those changes, they added way more keywords to broad targeting. We saw those increases come in. So it's going to be a doubled effort now for us to bring that down. Again, so I guess, Jason, what are some of the ways that brands can bring down, broad spend? And in general, I mean, should they still run broad given these changes?
I think right now it's hard to say because the performance data that we were seeing come in was completely different than what it had been historically. So for our team, what we've kind of moved in a collection, of doing is transitioning that spend towards phrase and exact. You can download if you have kind of search term reports month over month, take those conversions, into history, roll it out into phrase match. So you're still going to have coverage in a clear and concise way. It's just going to be now in a little bit different of a controlled environment so that you're not having to deal with the synonyms and variations over delivering. Where if you're not tracking your search terms either weekly or in those campaigns, at a really high level on a daily basis, you're not going to see, a huge level of, spillage and wasted spend come into the account.
Yeah, and that's really the most important thing. And that, by the way, is a diligent effort. That's an ongoing effort, right? As long as you have broad and phrase targeting in place, no matter how many keywords you add into negative, no matter how many keywords you put into exact, Amazon's still going to generate search terms, right? So Amazon is still going to say, hey, if you put 20 search terms into negative, it'll find another 20 for you, especially around broad, because now that we have synonyms and variations in play, if we talk about variations, it's subjective, it's endless. So you'll find probably that your search term count's going up. Now, on the flip side, this could be a positive because we could start seeing conversions for search terms that we'd never even put in the same wheelhouse as the keywords that we were targeting, right?
Correct. Yeah. And the only other thing that I was going to add on to that is within sponsored brand campaigns, you can add a broad modifier. So if you add the addition side ahead of the keyword, it made Amazon include that then in your targeting. What we've seen from our analysis is that doesn't actually apply to sponsored product campaigns. So for the time being, a benefit then that you're able to have through either video or headline search ads historically has not at least seemingly been rolled out and isn't effective yet within those sponsored product campaigns.
Yeah, and that's big, right? Because obviously Amazon rolled out sponsored brand search term reports. So we can now see those. And so if you guys are putting if you want to limit Amazon to just including the terms that are in your broad keyword, it doesn't have to be in that order, right? That's what phrase is for. It doesn't have to be in that order. Then you put the pluses in front of each individual term.
Yep.
So it's like men's shampoo, it would be plus men's plus shampoo. And then Amazon will be forced to keep that in those terms in, and it will limit the amount of synonyms and variations that they could bring in.
Yep. Because we were seeing across like our portfolio synonyms that were, definitely related to the product. So in terms of Amazon kind of indexing from an SEO standpoint, keywords that are similar, we would look at that and be like, oh, this could work. But from a conversion rate and efficiency standpoint, it's not going to make sense long term to not have that control. So there's still a place for broad, I would say, in terms of using it for data gathering. I would just look to use it more so as like a catch-all experience, kind of similar to what we use for a lot of auto campaigns, which is just very controlled and low bids. And make sure that within that you don't have a lot of different placement and bid adjustments because it could really spike your CPCs out of control.
Yeah, and I mean, really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to minimizing how much of your spend is going towards broad, right? Making sure that you're focusing on exporting as many of those terms into exact and phrase as possible, and even from phrase to exact as well. And then just putting those plus limitations and then those general limitations as well. So that was a big update. You'll probably see some changes if you're a brand that is, heavily reliant on broad. I mean, our recommendation would be to not be, but then in addition to that, you might see some more search terms coming into play, and you might be looking at your search report and say, hey, where the hell did that come from? That's where that came from. So that was one major update. The second, much smaller one, but it could be interesting in the long run, is, let me share my screen to show you direct from the source. Amazon Sponsored Display has launched a mobile carousel. And this really is just to kind of, as they said, build brand awareness, but really it's to enhance the product discovery right here. And this is basically what it looks like. There's not going to be a change in the way that you create campaigns, right? This will still show up. But what's kind of nice is because you can update a custom image and logo. And by the way, only ads with custom images and logos will be eligible for this new creative experience. Amazon can kind of break out the logo, break out the creative, and give customers 3 chances to click on your product and almost in a way tell like a bit of a story. It's like, here's the listing, here's our product, and then here's our, here's our brand. But Jason, you haven't seen this anywhere, correct?
I haven't seen this rolled out yet on Marketplace, where I've seen it actually from either an advertiser or a customer standpoint. But it does kind of mimic what carousel ads used to look like when advertising on Facebook and now Meta was obviously very popular. So I think it's going to be an ad format that is comfortable for people rather than clicking through the carousel. It's just kind of shown, side by side, but it's great additional real estate. We typically, I would say, from like a DSP and just creative standpoint, typically recommend having the logo in a headline to do if you're running awareness and kind of consideration-based ads. So having that is kind of a necessary, addition to the ad format, I think is going to help these perform pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as Jason said, we can't emphasize enough, as you can see, with video creatives, with lifestyle creatives, with breaking out sponsored display creatives, Amazon is putting an emphasis on the visual. And as you can see, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be the only order that these three are in, but it's very clear that the lifestyle image is front and center. And so that's going to continue, right? So high quality, high res images that can convey a story alongside videos, etc., because they're also a sponsored display video. All of these things can help move your brand forward, can help tell a story. And as Jason mentioned, this is big page real estate here. So whether or not this is showing up below the buy box, whether or not this is showing up, on a product detail page in the center, it's going to show up. And so it's important for your brand to have as much, not only real estate, but as much valuable and convincing real estate as possible.
Yep.
But I think
And then the only other thing that I was going to add on is this would have maybe historically been available for brands, larger brands who are running DSP campaigns. But from what Amazon covered at Unboxed and everything that we've seen is a huge emphasis to prioritize making ad formats available for smaller brands as well. So being able to run these display style campaigns include things such as a lifestyle image, a video, through display, a logo, a headline. It's all going to make ad inventory accessible for brands who might not have had a huge awareness level budget to begin with, but now they can play in that space a little bit as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a really low barrier to entry opportunity. I mean, you guys can put $20 a day towards this and just see if it delivers. We do find, not for every brand, but for the brands that sponsor display does deliver for, it delivers well. And if you're doing retargeting, if you want to protect your branded space, there's some good ROAS numbers there. And with this new update, you can see if there's a story being told, and you can see if customers are actually responding to it. And so our recommendation is go ahead, if you don't already, put $10-20 a day towards a sponsored display campaign. Kind of peruse Amazon, go search around, go search on your product detail pages on whichever product detail pages you're targeting. Make sure your ad blockers are off. And if so, you should be good. Okay, well, I think that's it for today.
Perfect. Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone again for joining. We hope that this was helpful. Keep an eye on those broad terms, keep an eye on sponsored display, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.